Refreshing Wild Cherry Cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
Welcome back into 49ers Access, and this is the Niners 2026 NFL Mock Draft version 2.0. That's right, we are inching closer to draft day, and that means the next version, the next step in our mock draft evolution comes into the world today, because we're going through, once again, round one, all the way down to the Niners' last pick in round number 4 and trying to find our best bang for our buck and make the Niners legit Super Bowl contenders after a really good free agent period. We do have some different rules, though, in this mock draft. I'm going to try to take some different players to diversify our portfolio to some degree. So last week, it was Denzel Boston at pick 27. I'm taking him off the board. I already told you last week how much I liked him. If he's there, he'd be a player I definitely consider for the 49ers. But in today's podcast, today's show, we can't take him at all. He is not going to be available for the San Francisco 49ers today, even if he is on the board. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2, we cannot trade back from pick 27, but we can trade back from round number 2. So if some team says, hey, we'll give you a slew of picks for your pick in the 50s, we can accept that trade in round 2 alone. So again, maybe we can get some more picks on the board today, talk about some more prospects in day 3, maybe even more in day 2. So it's going to be fun. Can't wait. And as always, we are using the Pro Football Focus Mock Draft Simulator because it is the easiest one to read on YouTube and the more accessible for a lot of the fans out there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. With each pick, drop the prospect you would take instead of the one I'm going to take today. Or tell me, Sterling, you nailed it. We're hoping that's the case more often than not, but sometimes you down there in the comments are like, Sterling, you're an idiot, so get off the show. But it's my show, and it's my picks, and it's my rules. So let's dive into our 2026 San Francisco 49ers NFL Mock Draft version 2.0. And the Las Vegas Raiders are officially on the clock. You can see here on the video version, the Raiders are there on the clock. The Jets are number 2, and let's kick this bad boy off today with Fernando Mendoza going number 1 overall. And again, I'll go through a lot of the picks when we get there. As you can see, part of the draft board next to the 49ers, that pick number 27. I'll go back up for you who want to know on the audio versions. Mendoza went number 1 to the Raiders. No shock there. Ruben Bain goes number 2 to the Jets. I think that'll be the pick on draft night, or at least it should be. Arvell Reese goes 3. Jeremiah Love goes 4. Caleb Downs goes 6 to the Browns. Francis Moyaga goes to the Washington Commanders. Carnell Tate goes to the Saints. Dylan Thieneman goes number 9 inside the top 10 to the Kansas City Chiefs. More notable names here. Mekhi Lemon goes to the Los Angeles Rams. No shock there. Kenyon Sadiq goes to the Jets at 16. Jordan Tyson goes 17 to the Detroit Lions. He was on the board still at pick 27 in last week's draft, so already some change up, which is good. That's why I want to have the version 2.0. Akeem Mesidor goes 22 to the Chargers, and Omar Cooper Jr. goes pick 27, right in front of the San Francisco 49ers, leading us to the Niners on the clock. What are Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch cooking? Because like we talked about last week, you got to hit on all these picks. You cannot take a project or a guy that you hope can become something at pick 27. This guy, whoever they take, has to be an instant impact player at pick 27. And let's see the draft board as it currently stands. Safety from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren on the board, still available. Avian Terrell, standout cornerback from Clemson. Cassius Howe, the short-armed edge rusher from Texas A&M, still there. Caden McDonald, the run-stuffing defensive tackle. Maxi Honachor, who is shooting up draft boards as he should. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go to teams like the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 23, maybe even sooner in the first round. He is an athletic freak out of Arizona State at tackle. Denzel Boston still there. Peter Woods, the defensive tackle from Clemson. Colton Hood from Tennessee. Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M, the wide receiver. Caleb Lomu's still there. Zion Young, Brandon Cease, D'Angelo Pons, Chris Bell. A lot of guys that can give you some instant impact value. But I want to address something first, because I've seen a lot of people out there. You know what? Bring it in. I've seen a lot of people out there mock a tackle to the 49ers at pick 27. And I'll tell you this now. There is only one tackle I would take at pick 27, and it's Maxi Honachor. You want to know why? He can play guard initially. Doesn't have to start for you. Not going to get in the way of Trent or Colton McKivitz playing left or right tackle. I think he only played right tackle at Arizona, so he'll need some time to move to left tackle, because he would be somebody you'd pick and sit or play left guard while trying to learn left tackle in the interim. I don't get it. I see Matt Miller. I've seen other Niners insiders, beat reporters, podcasters, even national people, Mel Kiper, all these people. Niners 27, they're taking a tackle because they just don't know what's going to happen with Trent Williams. Seriously? I get it. Maybe in a crazy world, Trent isn't a 49er. Maybe things linger throughout training camp. You want to avoid that. I understand. However, you'd be wasting a draft pick unless that guy's playing left guard. Now, maybe that's part of the conversation. Caleb Lomu can do that. Ihanacher can do that. So in that case, maybe. But do they really need a left guard in round one? I'd say no. Now, I'm not one of those folks that say you can't take an interior offensive lineman in round one. I mean, Linderbaum got $20 million a year. The market is getting higher and higher each and every season. Guards are getting paid big chunks of change. I'm not saying don't. I just don't think that's where the value is for this team. You lost Bryce Young due to retirement. You don't have a number 2 / third down pass rusher for Mykel Williams. At receiver, Mike Evans, old, injured last year. Now, I think he'll be good if he's healthy for the 49ers, but still, Ricky Pearsall, never been healthy and has shown flashes, but there's no consistency there. Christian Kirk has had a lot of injuries in his career. Is a receiver 3 or 4, nothing more, nothing less than that in the room. Jordan Watkins is unproven. Jacob Cowing's unproven. Demarcus Robinson, again, is kind of that receiver 3, 4 in that room again. Like, you don't have the weaponry, thus leading us to a conversation we have to have here of kind of like last week as well. Do you go edge rusher? And I think the two players you would discuss are Cassius Howe and Zion Young from Missouri. And we can get into both those guys in round one, because I think, and they're very different. They're almost the polar opposite player for the 49ers at pick 27. You have Cassius Howe, who you want to give Mykel, that third down edge rusher that can be the speed guy, that can hopefully go get some sacks and rush the quarterback and just, hone in on that skill. He's 6'2", 253 pounds, so a smaller guy, but with some good size. But he's got tiny arms, 30 and a quarter inch arms, and in some cases, at the combine, 29-inch arms. Now, there was a fiasco there with the whole short arm gate, we're going to call that, because everybody's arm length was shorter than it was at their pro days. But 30 and a quarter inch arms is still small despite being higher than the combine measurement. But last year, with Texas A&M, he showed to be, again, that kind of one-dimensional third-down pass rusher, which they need desperately out there in San Francisco. He can set up tackles pretty well. He's bendy off the edge, can change direction. He has a high motor. He's an explosive player with a great first step. He has a speed and a cross-chop move. He has a spin and a Euro step and a bull counter. He can do all these things that make him one of the more refined pass rushers on third downs. However, while there may be this, sky is the limit with Chris Kocurek playing next to Alfred Collins and Odigizua and Nick Bosa and playing alongside Michael, the arm length is questionable. You'll have a longer arm tackles get to his chest, fend him off. And the last thing you can do is draft a guy like this knowing he has that negative to his game and then be like, I don't know what to do, because now he's left kind of just on an island, not getting home to the quarterback, where his counters aren't working, where his speed moves, albeit are impressive, with longer arm tackles that can move in the NFL, which you're going to play better tackles from college to the NFL. They can stay in front of you more. They'll have better counters and they'll have better, they'll get in their stances and they'll be able to have lateral agility that other college tackles don't have. So that's part of the question. And on top of that, he just wasn't really productive against good teams, leading further into that, can you play against NFL tackles? He wasn't great against Texas, Miami, Notre Dame. That's not great. So the tougher the talent got, the less productive you got. So there is a mixture. Do you want the speed threat, the pass rush skill set? But there are serious things to consider as to how does he translate to the NFL. Whereas Zion Young probably fits more of what the Niners would have liked a couple years ago with Robert Saleh. He's 6'6", 262 pounds, 33-inch arms, a massive human being. Over the last 2 years, over 1,000 snaps, a 14.7% pass rush win rate. Last year at Missouri, a 17.5% pass rush win rate. He had a 6.9% run stop rate. He's one of the best run defending edge setters in this class alone. He's strong, can play with his hand in the dirt or standing up, and he can crush pull blockers coming across. He'll lower that shoulder and his bang will blow up a play from guards or centers pulling across the line. He also stacks and sheds incredibly well, something Cassius Howe can't do because of the arm length, right? You have a near 2-inch arm length advantage for Zion Young over Cassius Howe. But that's the trade-off. Size, length, power profile compared to a guy that maybe doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the bend like Cassius Howe does. He has a bull rush, a swim move. He has the chop and the spin. But again, those are slower moves. Those are moves that, maybe you're hoping Michael Williams can kind of grow into in year 2, 3, and 4 compared to Howe, who maybe already has a more diversified pass rushing skill set. The thing is that not to say there'd be some redundancy with going from Young or from Michael Williams to Young on third downs. It's just that his skill set really doesn't translate to being a third down edge rusher. I think Zion Young translates more to being an eventual every down player if the pass rushing skills can grow. Whereas right now, he's probably more of a base down player for you. And San Francisco already has that type of player. Now, the way Zion Young plays, he's an energetic ball of fire where if he hits you, he's letting you know. And that screams San Francisco 49er defensive player. However, there are some red flags that I do think may, in some cases, take him off their draft board entirely. Got a DUI in December. He was intoxicated while speeding. He also refused the breath analyzer, and his court date is pending. So there are some red flag character concerns. Now, I will say this in two parts. Are DUIs as concerning in this case to maybe somebody dying in a collision while intoxicated? No. And all DUIs are not built the same. However, it is a bad choice for anybody, whether 21, 18, 26, 45, 99, I don't care how old you are, to get behind the wheel of a vehicle intoxicated, impaired. Whether you're high, whether you're drunk, you made a poor decision, you committed a crime, and you knowingly did that. Now you can say, well, knowingly is kind of hard to, really, like, he's intoxicated, he didn't know it. Well, you knew it enough to refuse the breath analyzer because you knew you got caught. That, to me, in case of edge rushers, is a massive red flag. And I'm sure the 49ers, who have made it a point to find high character players, albeit in some cases, many out there are saying, I don't care how your character may be great, but if you can't play, who cares? And I get that. But the one thing you don't want, and it's the one thing that hurt San Francisco in the past, albeit near a decade ago now with Reuben Foster, and he was doing different things, and maybe in this case more worse, but they got the clearance of, it was a one-time mistake. Picked him, and it was not a one-time mistake. So a DUI can be a one-time thing. You live and you learn, and you move on, and you grow as a player. You grow as a person. We all make mistakes. That's life. It's how can you as an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old say, I made a mistake today. How does it not happen again? But on the other side, you knew what you were doing. You got in trouble and you did it anyways. Now, are you upset you got caught, or are you upset because you made a mistake and you want to grow? That is something that I'm not privy to. That's something I'm sure the Niners have done their due diligence on in the draft process. But that, to me, is a reason why I'm sure some teams will be like, I don't know. I'm not sure. You saw Mike Green last year, who was accused of doing much worse than a DUI, fall from a round 1 projection to day 3 because of it. Why would Zion Young not fall from round 1, round 2 to round 3, or later round 2? Like right now, you can see on the draft board, he's going around pick 40. That's middle of round 2. Now, funny enough, that is the Chiefs, who don't mind some character concerns, but I could see Young going anywhere from, the first round all the way to early round 3 because of some teams will say it's not worth the risk. And if you're the 49ers and we're trying to do what I think they would do in this case, this is what the Niners will do, or hopefully would do in the draft, I don't think they're going to take Zion Young because of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but in the Niners' case, they often err on the side of caution, even if it is relatively small. It's the reason why I didn't think Jordan Addison made a lot of sense in the offseason, because he didn't have one, he had 2 DUIs. I can't have you getting drunk on Saturday before the game on Sunday and then getting arrested and can't play. It just can't happen. I can't have an Aldon Smith situation where it's like, oh my God, dude, what's going on? So I think Zion Young's off the table, like almost entirely. Maybe I'm foolish, but in the Niners' case, I think he is. So that kind of narrows your first down edge rushing potential prospects to one player, that being Cassius Howell in this case, but that also brings us to wide receiver and safety. Now, I don't think the Niners are going to draft a safety round 1. You heard Matt Barrow say that they don't hate Jair Brown. They don't hate Marquise Siegel. They don't hate Malik Mustafa, and Raheem Morris being in that room may be able to work with them, whereas Robert Saleh was more of a trenches out kind of guy. Raheem Morris is more of a secondary in type of defensive coach. You saw with the Falcons how he prioritized getting safeties in that room and paying them a lot of money. And the Niners already kind of have a chunk of the edge rushing group figured out. So in some capacity, maybe, but I think in this case, you would hear John and Kyle override Raheem Morris and saying, look, I can't have you draft the safety at 21 overall unless it is one of the top 2 guys, that being Caleb Downs and Dylan Thieneman, who are long gone. And I think they will be long gone at this point on draft day in April. Some may say tackle. I don't think they would. I think while you can make the case that you can get a tackle, you can figure out left guard in the intermediate and move them over like Maxi Honachor. I just don't think with who they've signed this offseason, with how they operate, they don't value first round, or at least in previous drafts, they haven't valued first round tackles. They value more of that kind of late day 2, Dominic Pooney, offensive linemen. They value guys more in the middle rounds because they are so specific on their kind of players. But again, they have taken McGlinchey and they have taken Aaron Banks. So anything can happen. I just don't think the value is there for them unless they think that guy can project to be the next Trent or a 5 to 10 year starter for them, which it's hard to do. Hard to do. So let's go to receiver for a second. We can't take Denzel Boston per my rules I'm setting, thus leaving us the two yak guys directly after him. I'm taking a long time on pick 1 for a reason, because this is where you have the entire draft board almost at your disposal, and a lot of these guys are going to be gone come your next pick at 58 overall. So you got to make sure you pick the right guys.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's talk about Chris Bell for a second, because if there's anybody that screams 49er, that screams, Deebo Samuel-esque, Shanahan would love that guy, it is Chris Bell. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's only 22 years old. He can play the X, and he's more of a playmaking type receiver. He's a guy you want to get the ball in his hands early, kind of like Deebo. He's somebody who, in the short game, that is where he flourishes. Slants, drags, screens. He is a after-the-catch monster, where if the ball's in his hands, look out. And he has good hands, reliable hands underneath, over the middle. He'll work through traffic, and then bang, he's gone, lowering his shoulder, getting around guys and running, 25, 30 yards downfield. Because of that, though, his route tree is limited, kind of like Deebo's was out of South Carolina back in 2019. Now, I do think that Chris Bell has a more expansive route tree than Deebo did, but also possesses less of that power profile Deebo did coming out of college. So a little bit of give and take there when it comes to the Chris Bell, Deebo Samuel kind of comparisons that many are making out there in the draft community. But he is a strong player. Don't get it wrong. He isn't weak. He isn't a 6'2" stick. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. That's about my size. And I'm not as jacked and, as strong and in shape as Chris Bell is, mind you. But he's somebody who you could project to become better, more dynamic in the NFL, where you're like, hey, he's good at Louisville, but in the NFL, what can you do under a coach like Kyle Shanahan? Now, I do wish he was more aggressive fighting for the ball in the air. Oftentimes, you'll see more physical defensive backs kind of get him off his route, or I don't want to say bully him, but just out-physical him for the football. But right now, his skill set's very projectable. And even if he doesn't get better, even if this is who he is his entire career, that's still a very solid NFL player. So he's a safer pick until you get to the medical stuff, where he tore his ACL last year. There were rumors he might miss time, could even miss all of training camp week 1. It seems like that's not going to happen, where, according to reports, whether it's Tony Pauline or others, he's ahead of schedule. So that fear may be out of the question, although maybe underlying of we'll see how things are. But Chris Bell would make a damn good 49er if they are looking for that physical yak presence to mix with Demarcus Robinson, Ricky Pearsall, and Mike Evans, who are going to be more of down-the-field players, catch, fall down, kind of the finesse type of guys, better route runners, if you will, in the offense. Or there is the smaller, yet equally as explosive, but not as powerful player of Chris Bell, that being Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. Now, we debated last week whether it was Concepcion or Boston. I think that's kind of the same conversation we're having here between Concepcion and Chris Bell. Now, I'll just be honest with you. I do not think Chris Bell can be taken inside the top 27 or really even the first round. I don't think he has the skill set to warrant being a number one wide receiver, right? We all laugh at the Eagles taking Jalen Reagor ahead of Brandon Ayuk and Justin Jefferson. Why? Because he really didn't have that first round skill set, right? I think Chris Bell has really great traits, but I do think Casey Concepcion overall is a much better player and is somebody you can project to be, while Bell will be good in the NFL, you can make the case Concepcion can be a Pro Bowl level talent in the league. Excellent speed. He's a Z, vertical threat playmaking wide receiver, 5'11", 190 pounds, 21 years old, so 1 year younger than Chris Bell. You talk about maybe the best yak ability in the entire first round. That's Casey Concepcion. He's got the juice on top of the juice on top of the juice when it comes to being a gadget player. He's OJ, he's AJ, he's grape juice, he's whatever it may be, what kind of juice you like. That's what Casey Concepcion possesses after the catch. Dominant force, somebody who would mix, like Chris Bell, very well with Pearsall, Evans, Robinson, and Christian Kirk and give a different dynamic to the current crop of receivers on the 49ers. Now, I do think there will be, or there could be frustration with the routes. Sometimes he'll waste some steps kind of setting up defensive backs, but there are flashes, so I think this may be a player that finds himself maybe in Shanahan's doghouse or is limited in what he can do early. And then in a year or two, you see the production jump. Or maybe in a shorter kind of timeline, like Debo didn't pop until Emmanuel Sanders got there. Maybe that's the same case for Casey Concepcion, where now that he already has guys on the outside to kind of unlock the inside game for him and the underneath things for him, maybe that can kind of, streamline his production in the offense. So there is reasons to believe that maybe the route running won't be as big of a problem for him because of who the Niners already have in the room around him. I also think for a guy his size, being 5'11", he can beat press coverage pretty well. That to me makes me believe he can be a true NFL deep threat, which is something the Niners really need. If you want that deep threat yak guy, Concepcion probably is the best one in the draft of everybody that's available now. Boston, Bell, Bernard, Chris Brazzell as well. However, being smaller, you will see safeties, defensive backs, cornerbacks primarily get him off his routes. Not often, but at times. And he does play a little smaller than 190 pounds. And the biggest knock to me is just the drops. Everybody wants to talk about, his contested catch rate is so big. And yeah, it's great and all, but when you drop 10% of your passes the last 2 seasons, that to me is a concern. Now, are you dropping a deep ball wide open or are you dropping underneath stuff? Now we'll see how that works in the NFL for him, but there is a wide range of outcomes where if the hands don't get better, if the routes don't get better, you kind of see him washed away or become not reaching that like Pro Bowl potential. But if the hands can become more consistent and the routes can just improve a tiny bit, like I said earlier, Casey Concepcion can be a Pro Bowl level talent in the NFL. There is a world where those things hold him back, but also there's a world where he progresses well and grows quickly. And you're sitting back like, how did the league let the Niners get that guy? Whoa. It's been a long time. We're like 20 minutes in, so I'll just make a pick for it. We're almost 30 minutes in. Oh my goodness. We're talking forever here. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Who would you take? Cassius Howell, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, Zion Young? Would you take somebody else? In this case, I'm going to go Casey Concepcion. I think this is the best bang for your buck in round 1. He is the more dynamic receiver on the board still, that I believe is an actual true first-round talent. So we're going Casey Concepcion. The draft board's falling our way, and let's see who's on the board at pick number 58. Who do we got here on the board? Okay, we got some good players. We do have one trade offer. I did tell you guys earlier, set the precedent that at pick 58, we can make trades. only in round 2 can we make a trade. So who's calling up? And the phone rings. Bring, bring. Hi, this is John Lynch of the San Francisco 49ers. Who's this? It is the Arizona Cardinals, an interdivision trade. They're calling. They say, hey, John, we're not going to tell you who we like, but maybe it's Ty Simpson. Maybe we're getting that quarterback instead of who's out there, Gardner Minshew or Jacoby Brissett. Jimmy G who? Maybe we like Keontae Scott from Miami. Maybe you like Chris Brazzell. Well, the Niners already got a receiver, but Skylar Bell's there. A lot of guys still here. Grayson Holden's still there. Elijah Surratt's still there. Zachariah Branch is still there. A lot of receivers here. A lot of them. Ted Hurst, Malachi Fields, a lot of guys. Who do the Cardinals want and what? And who do I think they're going up for? Let's see who's available on the board first to kind of clear ourselves of any pain. Now, I did say before that we will try to take different players unless there is somebody we believe is the best that we took last time. So there is some give and take involved in this. But what do the Cardinals want? If we're taking pick 58 and they're going to give up pick 65, then I'm asking for pick 104 and I'm asking for a 6th-round draft pick next year. So you get another pick inside or around the top 100. You move back 7 spots and you pick up a 6th-rounder next season. I'm going to offer this trade and see if it goes through. I like that. I think anybody on the board currently, we can get it, 7 spots later. I don't think anybody's going to be gone that we're like, oh man, we missed him. So we have made our trade, moving back from pick 58 to get pick 65 and 104, allowing the interdivision Arizona Cardinals to come up and make their pick. And who do they take? They go wide receiver Skylar Bell. Texans go to Keontae Scott. Back-to-back Tennessee Volunteers go at 60 and 61. Elijah Surratt goes to the Broncos, and we now have a slew of 3rd and 4th round draft picks lined up, ready to go. So now we did make our receiver pick in round 1, thus bringing us to our next pick in round number 3, moving back from round number 2. And there is a lot of edge rushers on the board here. Derek Moore from Michigan. Danny Denise Sutton from Penn State. Romello Height is still here. L.T. Overton's still here. Kieran Crawford's still here. A lot of guys. You can go to the interior defensive line. You got Grayson Holden, who's still here. Dominic Orange, Big Citrus is still here. Darrell Jackson's on the board. A lot of people to take, a lot of moves that can be made. But first, before we make pick 65 now, I want to remind you to use our promo code 49ers Access right here, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. The weather's getting warm. The sundresses are coming out. The Daisy Dukes. The boys are wearing the above-the-knee shorts again, girls. The muscle mommies, the muscle daddies, they're coming out. And that means concert weather. That means MLB's in full swing now. Opening day has come. The Giants are 0-3. Oh, my God. Please get a win. But if you want to watch any of those things, concerts, sporting events, the NBA, MLB, soon the NFL is around the corner. You want to get yourself some tickets, go to SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using promo code 49ERSACCESS, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com. Thank you to SeatGeek and thank you to you out there for buying some tickets. We all have tickets. Gas is expensive. It's $7.50 for diesel. It's $5.49 and it's $6 in some places for unleaded $89, not premium. Save yourself some money, get yourself some tickets, and support the show in the meantime. And let's get back into mock draft 2.0. Okay. I think San Francisco, who took a receiver round 1 in this case, KC Concepcion, I think they would, in this case, have to go with an edge rusher. That's the value. You cannot miss on the next guy, right? If you don't take Derek Moore, Dennis Sutton, or Height, you're not really getting an impactful player on day one. Now, I'm going to do what we did last week. This was maybe the most contentious, most debated pick of the mock draft, that being from Texas Tech, Romelo Height. Compared, or kind of, people didn't like Denzel Boston. I said, screw off, it's fine. But people did not like Height in round number 2. Maybe they'll like Height in round number 3. Lighter guy, 6'3", but he's 25 years old. That is an instant impact player because they have to be. But he's got the pass rush moves. If you don't get Cassius Howell, the next closest thing to him might be Height. And you're getting longer arms, albeit an older player that has similar pass rushing skill set, that is a third down pass rusher only. He's a liability against the run. He's not good against double teams, but to maximize Micah Williams on the interior, got to find that guy. If you're going to lose Bryce Huff, go get Height. Now, that is right now the consensus in my brain pick here, but let's look who's out there. Anybody else screaming our name? You can make the case for Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. Get your guard now. You can maybe talk me into Darrell Jackson Jr. on the interior. I think San Francisco has to find somebody on the interior somewhere, right? Maybe you overdraft Sam Roush from Stanford. I can see it happening too. It's certainly an option for the 49ers, but I think you have to go Height here. It may be an overdraft. I don't care. Derek Moore's a power rusher. Dennis Sutton is a low ceiling, high floor guy that really just hasn't clicked yet at Penn State, but can be a solid kind of rotational piece for you. Height to me can actually become an every third down player, if that makes sense. Can actually maximize Micah Williams and San Francisco's pass rush and does fit more in what Raheem Morris wants from his edge rusher. So we're going Height here and seeing how the draft falls afterwards. A lot of guys off the board. The Saints go Ty Simpson, and bing, bang, boom. Let's see who we got all the way down in round 4 now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 draft picks in round number 4. That means a lot of picks to make, a lot of fun picks to make. And let's see who's on the board. Looks like, see who we got. Looks like Zachy Wheatley from Penn State's off the board. Would have loved him with the 49ers this offseason. But let's go safety. Let's talk safety because we know Raheem Morris may be advocating for a safety early. The Niners have to find some offensive linemen too. Maybe a tight end here would be on the board as well. But they got to find a safety. You can't walk into next year with Brown, Mustafa, and Siegel. Now, the way that Raheem Morris uses his safeties is not the way Robert Saleh uses his safeties. It's not a one-for-one thing. So you're going to see 2 nickels in the play at the exact same time, hence why they signed Nate Hobbs from the Packers after he got cut in the offseason. I think there's a case where you may see a secondary at times that has Marquis Siegel and Stout playing together in the nickel, not playing safety and nickel. There are going to be times where you see Hobbs and Stout playing together alongside Green and Lenore. So they're going to mix and match. They're going to try to get the size thing figured out and find the best matchups for them in the secondary. But I do think you cannot walk into 2026 saying, same guys as last year is who we got now. Jai Brown's bad. Now maybe he gets moved into that more in-the-box safety role with Raheem Morris, which I wouldn't hate. But you cannot walk in the next year being like, we're done. I think that is foolish. I think it would be ridiculous. And I think you'd feel a lot of the same problems you had in 2025, now in 2026. Now, you can go Bo Stevenson here. Did that last week too. You can go Jaeger Burton. You can go Billy Schroff from Notre Dame. You can fix your interior. I wouldn't be against that. You can even go tackle. We can all talk about, getting guys like Jude Bowery from Boston College. Would love that for the 49ers. But I think this is a good value right now for safety, in my opinion. Tight ends are all kind of locked up. Jack Andrews he's probably going to be there. You can always go Marlon Klein from Michigan. But I think safety makes the most sense here right now for the 49ers, and that brings us to the current crop of safeties. Now, it's tricky because I think a lot of the Niner players love Bud Clark, who it's hard to dislike Bud Clark, but there are concerns. Many of them stem from the injury stuff. He had injuries in 2021, 2022, and also last season. So do you mind drafting maybe a safety that has some injury problems on the back end, but can maybe be your biggest boomer bust guy in the draft? And Clark is somebody who he's got 4 speed, and it shows. He has 4.4 speed, and it shows. Explosive player. The ball skills are great. He's rangy. He's got vision to roam as a true free safety. And he plays the ball in the air like a wide receiver. The Niners need that ball hawking free safety. I think Bud Clark, to some degree, can be that for them. Now, with that, he'll take a lot of chances in coverage, and he will lose a lot of the time. So, not to kind of harp on Jair Brown, but Jair Brown isn't fast enough to take chances in coverage. But Bud Clark will miss a lot, thus meaning he can have some of the issues that Jair Brown has at getting beat over the top, or maybe not getting beat, but taking a chance, guessing wrong, and all of a sudden the guy's 35 yards running for a touchdown. So
the world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
that does exist in the Bud Clark player. There also is a little bit of tackling issues. The strength is a little inconsistent at times. Wish he was a better finisher, but he's 6'1", 186 pounds, pretty light for a safety. But if you're playing free safety, which he wasn't really doing that a lot at TCU, which is crazy to say. Now, that can be because he didn't have to. Because you go to last year, or the last 2 seasons, he played over 1,500 snaps, but only 319 were at free safety. He played 707 in the box and 559 in the slot. I mean, that's, 1, versatile, but 2, it's like there may be more than meets the eye at free safety. So there's some good, there's some bad, but he has 15 career interceptions, a 10.7% missed tackle rate, and a 13% forced incompletion rate. Now, some of you out there may say, Sterling, what about Genesis Smith from Arizona? I'll tell you this now. He doesn't tackle. He does not want to tackle. He runs away from contact, and that's not going to play in the NFL. You have to look for contact, or at least be involved in the play. He's hesitant at times. While maybe there is an athletic skill set you like, I just don't think his mentality translates to the NFL. So I think Bud Clark of this bunch, Michael Taffy, Jalen Stroman, and Smith, I think Clark would be the most Niner-like player. You're not going receiver. You're not going linebacker after you signed Dre Greenlaw. At least you're not taking him now because the linebacker class really isn't that good. You could maybe make the argument for Chris McClellan from Missouri on the interior. I wouldn't hate that, but for trying to speed things up, we'll go Bud Clark here from TCU. Get our safety out of the way. This being the pick we traded to acquire from the Cardinals. Now we're back on the board at pick 127. And this is where things can get tricky because you have picks 127, 133, 138, and 139. You got to find tight end. Got to find your tight ends. You got to find your tackles. You got to find the guys that you think fit the Niners. Now, we took, and I think it may happen again, we took Bo Stevenson from Iowa. And we took Emil Wagner from Notre Dame last week. That may happen again. We shall see. There really isn't any massive or big defensive linemen that stick out to me. Landon Robinson's gone. Chris McClellan's gone. So what do? I am not the biggest fan of anybody on here. Tim Keenan III, DeMonte Capehart, Albert Regis, even Zane Durant, who a lot of fans like, and I don't really get the love. He didn't really produce. I know he's smaller. He has some speed. He has some burst. Like, there's reasons to believe why couldn't he replace Kalia Davis? And okay, fine. I get that, but you're not drafting Kalia Davis in round 4. I wouldn't want to do that. Like, at all. There's a reason he was a 6th-round draft pick. Now, you can go Jack Andrews again, and he can become, like we talked about last week, he can be the not in line, the slot kind of tight end, the great hands, and be a receiving threat for you, which is more along the lines of Jake Tunges, but maybe more productive early with a higher ceiling, and probably a better blocker already. But Tunges is showing signs of being a better blocker as of now. A lot of fans like Jacoby Lane. I don't. I just am not a fan of it at all at receiver. A lot of fans like Nick Singleton. You already have a running back on the roster that can't play because he can't see the field very well. In Isaac Grendo. Why would you take Nick Singleton? That doesn't make sense. You can go maybe doubling up at edge and go Max Llewellyn from Iowa. I wouldn't be against that, but maybe not here. A lot of fans out there love Katron Allen from Penn State. I like Allen more than Nicholas Singleton for sure. And the Niners have been pretty adamant of finding the next running back behind Christian McCaffrey. CMC said it himself. Lynch, and I think Shanahan said today at the coaches' meetings that we want to find the next RB2. Okay, well, you're picking a terrible running back class to want to do that. Took one last year, you didn't play the guy. Maybe James is that dude, but you let Brian Robinson leave. You're not finding somebody that has a similar skill set to CMC in this draft. So it's just like you're kind of stuck. But I think at this point in time, we're going to take Bo Stevenson, just like we did last week. Stevenson here on the screen. Iowa runs the wide zone. There's a reason why he's a zone blocker through and through. He's Connor Colby, but better. Also bigger, 6'5", 315 pounds. Iowa just screams Niners when it comes to offensive linemen. He can play left guard in a pinch. He can play left guard, I think, this year, but he can move over to right guard in a pinch, having played it in 2023. Give up no sacks the last 3 years. Give up 10 total hurries and only 3 quarterback hits the last 3 seasons. He's played 5, 11, and 13 games, getting better each and every year, and played over 1,200 snaps the last 2 seasons. And I think is somebody who's far better than Connor Colby in pass protection and is a better run blocker. So I know San Francisco said that they aren't done adding to that room in the position. So let's go ahead and secure our guy who we got at 133 last week, but let's avoid missing out on him here at pick 127, fixing our left guard spot through and through. And nobody truly big besides injuries goes to the Dolphins at pick 130, and we're on the board again at 133. Now, if we're not going to get injuries, I think the Niners, who draft by need, having already filled receiver, edge, safety, and guard, would likely turn their eyes to tight end. Now, there's still some instant impact players here on the board, and there's one guy I'm like in love with, but he's more of a project. As I bring up my tight end notes in front of me, if I can find them quickly here. Here we go. Now, you can talk about Justin Jolie from North Carolina State. You can get it to Dallin Bentley from Utah. I think that there's a case to be made that Jolie, just as a prospect, is better than Klein and Bentley, but different guy, right? Jolie is 6'3", 250 pounds, has near 33-inch arms and 10.5-inch hands. He is a receiver through and through. You want that receiving threat? I mean, man. He played receiver at UConn. He has great ball skills, a wide and lengthy catch radius. He's somebody who likes contact, is a weapon in the red zone. So if you don't get that big-bodied ex-receiver round one to mix with Mike Evans, maybe Justin Jolie is that kind of player for you, where you're saying in the red zone, you just become this dominant receiving threat and you just eat and you get 5 touchdowns next year because you are that guy. He's somebody you can go up over defenders. He has an expensive route tree for tight end, but he's not really going to give you much yak, and he is a project as a blocker. So doesn't really scream 49er. I think guys like Sam Roush scream more of that 49er player. You can maybe even get into more of that Michael Trigg conversation, but he's already gone, albeit he isn't a blocker. I just think that he is a unique athlete where I can see the Niners saying, what can we do with that? But Eli Stowers is already gone out of Vandy, he's 6'3.5", 240 pounds. Former quarterback, runs 21.3 miles per hour. He maybe wouldn't and isn't tight end, but still, he is that receiving threat on the outside. Isn't a blocking inline tight end. But that brings me to, I think, maybe one of my favorite players in the entire draft. Marlon Klein out of Michigan. He's 6'6", 245 pounds, so great size for a tight end. The grades on PFF are not kind. And there definitely is more of a project, if you want to use that word, for him. 812 snaps, a 63.2 overall grade, a 62.9 receiving grade, and I'll just leave that there. The grades aren't great, but this is where things get interesting because Marlon Klein's from Germany, and he's only played football for 6 seasons. So you're talking about, right now at Michigan, right? You look at he's a senior. Like, he is a true senior. So he played 2 years of high school football, went to Michigan, and has played and been there for 4 years now. And I think, when you talk about untapped potential, he screams that. And if there is any position, maybe outside a tackle, because they're going to be behind Trent and McKivitz for at least a year or two, you can make the case tight end is maybe the other spot where you don't mind taking an athletic freak that, if everything works out, can be a legit, like, all-pro tight end. That's a big jump. I get that, but that's like perfect case scenario for Marlon Klein because the athletic skill set is just off the table. Like, you can make the case that he's an athletic freak where the light bulb is like flickering, but the minute it goes off, you want to be sure he's on your team because watch out. He's strong. He has vice grip hands as a blocker, so he fits what the Niners want of a blocker. He can play in line because of his size. High effort player. He's going to be great in heavy personnel. So if they want to use, 13, 12 personnel, Marlon Klein can be that for them, with Kittle maybe missing some time to begin the season. I just think he needs time to grow as a receiver. But if he's behind Kittle and Jake Tunges, and he's maybe kind of edging out Luke Farrell as a tight end, I think Klein could be an excellent pick for the 49ers, where you don't hear from him for a year, but on special teams, and maybe in the case Kittle misses more time than not, I think Klein can really at least become a blocker for them. And if that's the case, and maybe they want to keep Farrell on the roster too, having not cut him yet, I think there's a lot to like from Marlon Klein, who, what did he run at the combine? Let me bring it up for us. Let me see if I can find it here on my phone really fast. Marlon Klein scouting report on NFL.com. Let's see what they say. I don't really care what they say. I want to know what his speed was. let's see here. I think Lance Zierlein probably wrote this. One of the big names in the NFL drafting world. Yes, I'll accept your tracking. Klein 6'6", 32 and 3/8 inch arms, 9 1/4 inch hands, 248 pounds. He's a redshirt junior, so there is that there, but a 4.6 40-yard dash, a 1.64 10-yard split. He reached over 21 miles an hour running in Michigan. So I know I'm trying to convince you here. I think he's the pick at 133. I don't want Bentley. I don't want Royer from Cincinnati. Let me bring up Royer's report here on my phone that I wrote up. Again, receivers. There's not many other guys where you're like, yeah, that guy fits the 49ers. You can have a question about Josh Cuevas, but again, no one is an inline tight end left, and San Francisco needs that. So I'm going Klein here. You can bicker and banter in the comments. We're back on the board here at 138 and 139. And Jacoby Lane goes to the Steelers. Max Llewellyn goes to Philadelphia. And here we are. We have our tight end, our guard, our safety, our edge, and our receiver. And we have 2 picks left. What do we do? Do we go running back Emmett Johnson like last week? Do we go somebody else here? Let's see what we got. Last week, we took Emil Wagner here, I believe, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame, which I would still do. My mind hasn't changed on him in a week's span, but you can go running back Johnson, who I think is the best one remaining here on the board. Singleton, Le'Veon Moss, Jaden Ott, Katron Allen are still here. And many out there love Allen. You can go interior offensive line again. You can go Jaeger Burden from Kentucky. Let me see if I've written up on him just yet on my board. Let me see if I do. I don't think I do. I do not. Well, that's not good. We'll have to figure that out later. But you can go Jeremiah Wright. You can go Pat Coogan from Indiana, who I think might be on San Francisco's board. They did bring in Brett Toth, who they said was probably more fit to be a center. So that kind of feels like they feel like center's kind of clogged up right now. I still have Nick Zakel, so it's like trying to figure out what they want to do at the depth spots on the roster. Maybe Raheem Morris pushes for another cornerback. You can go Charles Demings. You can certainly go Ephesians Prysock, I'm sure is still here somewhere, from Washington. But I want to have a different conversation. And I think it's one we have to have, because we already took KC Concepcion. And now you've filled other needs like edge, safety, guard, tight end. You can make the case that tackle has to get filled too, but, that can wait. If you're going to, I think San Francisco would rather wait to figure out tackle until Trent retires, or McKivitz is going to be gone in 2 years' time. So it doesn't really feel like a pressing need. They sound pretty confident Trent's going to stay, which doesn't shock me at all. But let's have a conversation about receiver again, because we talked about this earlier in round 1, and I will use the expedited version of this, but a lot of unproven talent in that room, far beyond the ceiling of Concepcion, Pearsall, and Evans. You like Christian Kirk? Sure. You like DeMarcus Robinson? Sure. Veteran, depth guys? Fine. You have no idea if you're going to get anything from Jordan Watkins or Jacob Cowing. And if you take Concepcion, not to say Cowing's role isn't existing still, but it does diminish in the offense. Now, to me, I'm of the more the merrier. You have no idea what you get. And really, you don't even know what you get from Evans and Pearsall. And if you take Concepcion and he's starting, you don't know what he'll be. You hope they'll be what they have been or what they project to be. But really, their Niners have one of the biggest boom or bust receiver rooms in the entire NFL. Because if it's healthy and it's out there, oh my God, watch out, it's amazing. Evans, Pearsall, in this case, Concepcion, and Kirk, it's like, you have 4 legit guys that can play. And you had Robinson in there, who was a big playoff game for them last year. You have 5 guys. That 6th spot is up in the air to me. And I'm not going to lie to you, you are more likely to get nothing from Cowing and Watkins than you are something from them. And I hate saying that because I like both those players. They have very nice skill sets. They fit the 49ers offense pretty well. And I can see the vision in taking those guys, but you may not get anything from those players at all. So why would you not look at other guys in round 4? The same area you took Watkins last year. Why would you not look at it again? And I'm looking at 2 guys here. 2 sure-handed receivers who I think can fit your offense extremely well, that are different, but I think can easily find themselves on the roster, because if Watkins and Cowing stink again for a 2nd and 3rd year, those guys could be gone when it's all said and done. So the first one is Josh Cameron from Baylor. He's 6'1", 223 pounds, 34-inch arms. Last year with the Bears, 69 receptions, nice, 872 yards and 9 touchdowns. Again, because of those 34-inch arms and 10.25-inch hands, wide catch radius, doesn't really drop anything, a 4% drop rate. That's good to see. Dense body, quick feet, good body control in the air. He's dynamic after the catch. The route tree's not great. The timing in his routes can be a problem. I'm not sure if that was the quarterback's fault from Baylor, but worth noting here. The footwork has to improve. He'll round his routes a little too much, but also he can be a return guy, where the Niners right now, they lost Sky Moore. So I would like to avoid Pearsall being a return man. You want to pencil in Garendo and Cowing and Watkins and, I don't know, you plug in somebody, Junior Burgeon, but you don't know.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
Why not get somebody else in there who had 45 punt returns in his career for 20.7 yards in 2024? So it's like you are getting not just receiver, but also return man versatility. That's an option. The other guy, I think, that honestly could be on their eyes or on their board as a whole is, let's see if I can bring him up here for you, is Kevin Coleman Jr. from Missouri. I love Kevin Coleman. I think he's just tremendous. 5'11", 174 pounds. It's pretty light, pretty tiny guy, but there were rumors that, or I guess there was a report that they looked at Antoine Williams from Clemson, and Kevin Coleman might be a better version of that. He's a slot receiver, Z receiver, very much the Pearsall archetype, albeit not as a high ceiling, but he's a good route runner, gets off the line quick. He is a separator of all separators. The last 2 years, a 3.4% drop rate. Last year, a 2.9% drop rate, so very sure hands. He'll fight for yak after the catch, despite his size. The last 2 years, again, a 63% contested catch rate. Last year, 81.8% contested catch rate, despite his size. He forced 18 missed tackles last year. For as small as he is, he can push guys around, and he's very tenacious. Now, he isn't a run blocker because he's so small. And the catch radius is smaller because of his smaller size. But if you want a great route runner that'll fight for the football, is high effort, will give you everything he's got on a consistent basis, and is good in short yardage on crossing routes, why would you not take that chance? Like Jordan Watkins right now is a one-trick pony. He's a deep ball contested catch guy. He has size, much more than Coleman does. I get the like. I like Jordan Watkins, but I think you can make the case Kevin Coleman could be on San Francisco's draft board entirely. And you can be having a conversation of, well, I don't know, like this can make a lot of sense for them in round 4, especially if they don't get a receiver in round 1. But even if you do, you could trade back. I mean, why not? Why not double up? Why not find another receiver in a room where you don't have much consistency? Why not double up there and say, hey, if one guy's going to the doghouse, one of the other guys is playing. So I would be all for that. I'm still all for that. I think there's value in doing that. I don't see why you wouldn't at least consider it. But then there's tackle. And you have back-to-back picks. You can get into the conversation about J.C. Davis, who, God, terrible zone blocker. I would not even look at him at all. Terrible. But he's a brawler in the running game. So he can't move very well. But the last couple of years, it's been kind of like, what are we doing? But he's a good gap run blocker, in my opinion. I think he's too slow. I don't think he's an athlete that San Francisco would like. His hand technique's all over the place, but he has guard tackle flexibility. So you already got a guard, but you want to get that kind of guard swing tackle, you can do that. But he's played 49 consecutive games. He's got a good anchor to stop power rushers. But I think he's just way too slow. I think that kind of getting him in a phone booth is good for him. But older player too. But he has good length, good size, 6'4", 322 pounds, 34.25-inch arms, fifth-year senior, 21 years old, so still young despite his age. You can get into that. You can also get into Emil Wagner again. Nobody else is like screaming at me. You got your safety. You ain't getting a quarterback here for any reason. I don't like any of these linebackers, like at all. I just don't think San Francisco should be in the let's get a linebacker stuff. It just doesn't feel like the type of thing that they should get themselves into this year. You have Greenlaw. You have so many players there that have to prove themselves still. Let them do that. I'm kind of bantering here, kind of letting the conversation drag just to kind of cover my basis as a whole. I want to make myself sound smarter, than I actually am, right? I want to show you I put in the work, right? But, you can go Ephesians, Prysock, cornerback. It just where's the value in that? I'm not sure, really at all. There were a lot to make of the Renardo Green trade rumors that were just never true. I don't know why people ran with that. I didn't get it at all, at all. It just didn't make sense, but people just were like, yep, it's going to happen. Yep, they hate him. No, it's not real. Not real. Don't believe everything you hear. Watch out. But you know what? We're going to do something a little different. I am going to get a little advantageous here. I'm going to get advantageous. We're taking a cornerback. Raheem Morris, stand up, brother. This is for you. Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin, 6 foot, 190 pounds, 32.25-inch arms. Last year, at 47.2 completion rate allowed, 238 yards and 1 touchdown, 6 PBUs and 14 interceptions last year alone. He had 17 PBUs and 9 picks throughout his entire career. Quick and fluid hips to shadow most receivers. The vertical routes don't scare him at all. He's got the speed to go up top and get vertical with receivers downfield. It's kind of tough because he doesn't waste movement in his back pedal, but he will kind of side straddle receivers, which can give them some leverage over him. But he plays zone extremely well. He understands how to work in zone. Competitive, feisty, cover 3 1/4 are his best fits. And he also has played 270 special team snaps. So there's a real chance they don't want Darrell Luter Jr. on the team anymore. And I wouldn't be shocked to have Nate Hobbs in the room. If you can kind of move Luter Jr. to greener pastures. I'd be okay with that. Now the question is, can he play press? I don't think he can. I think he is a soft zone cornerback, which is something that Bernardo Green isn't good at. That's not his bread and butter. So if you want to mix and match and get guys involved, and there is level of competition. You're going to be playing at Stephen F. Austin. It's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's Stephen F. Austin. What? Yeah, like you're saying, where is that at? Where is Stephen F. Austin at? So there are some questions. Some bigger pass catchers can give him problem. The run defense isn't always great, but you want a coverage player. You want a guy that maybe can sit for a couple of years and learn. We're going to go Charles Demings. Get a cornerback. Got the extra pick for a reason. And, I think it makes the most sense. And then we're at pick 139 quickly here. I would go Emil Wagner again. Get your tackle of the future. Let that guy kind of stew for a year or two and figure things out. And you know what? We're going to do it again. I love Bo Stevenson, and I love Emil Wagner. Now, who will they be in the NFL? I'm not sure, but I just like their projections. And again, we got receiver, edge, safety, guard, tight end, cornerback, tackle. I would maybe take Kevin Coleman again from Missouri. Do we do that instead? Give ourselves some protection. Load that receiver room up. Oh, what do we do? It's a conundrum. What do we do? Do you take BPA or do you take need? Niners love Notre Dame tackles, though. And we're not taking running back. We'll take Emil Wagner and call it a day. All right, they're probably going to hate this pick. I don't care. We're here. Let them calculate the draft board. What do you think of another mock draft 2.0? Let's see what they bring up here as things calculate. And let's bring it up right here behind me if I can find where we're at. Here we go. Let's see what they say. They gave us a C for KC Concepcion, but they liked the Romello Height pick in round 3. They liked the Bud Clark pick. They loved the B-plus pick of Bo Stevenson. They kind of liked the Charles Demings and Marlon Klein picks, and they hated the Emil Wagner pick. Again, it all depends on draftings. I wouldn't make too much of our bottom 35% of Niner draft boards. It's based on what they think. And they said they would have taken, again, like last week, Ty Simpson, a quarterback you don't need, over Height. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but a B- grade. I will read off the entire draft class once again for you out there. At pick 27 overall, San Francisco takes KC Concepcion, wide receiver at Texas A&M. Love that pick. We then trade back from round 2, from pick 58 with the Cardinals, and get pick 65 and pick 104 in round 3 and round 4, and we get a 6th-round draft pick in 2027. Then we go at pick 65, edge rusher, Romello Height out of Texas Tech, 2 Texas boys up there in rounds 1 and round 3, their first 2 picks. Then we're going to 3rd Texas boy at round number 4, pick number 3 for us, Bud Clark, safety from TCU. Then we're getting some girth, some meat on the interior of the offensive line with Bo Stevenson at pick 127 out of Iowa. Then we're going the project kind of athletic freak Marlon Klein from Michigan, getting our 3rd or 4th tight end, if you will, this year behind Kittle Tungus, and maybe can push Luke Farrell's fat, ugly contract off of the books with the post-June 1st cut. Fingers crossed that happens. That pick 133. Then we're doing some value picks at pick 138 and 139, getting Raheem Morris, his first cornerback of the room, Charles Demings, out of Stephen F. Austin. And then we're taking a reach because we have to with our last pick in the 4th round, Emil Wagner again. So the exact same offensive lineman going to San Francisco, but some new faces compared to last week's version 1.0 mock draft. Last week it was Denzel Boston. Now it's KC Concepcion. We're adding Bud Clark, and we're adding Marlon Klein and Charles Demings to the team. What do you make of that mock draft down below? Drop your thoughts. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what you would have done differently. And version 2.0, done. Finito finish. That means version 3.0 comes out next week with draft day ever approaching. I cannot wait as we near the month of April. Gonna be fun. Can't wait to see what transpires on draft day. But until then, we're dropping mock drafts each and every week, and we're expanding our mock draft, our draft portfolio as we go into the final month of draft season. That said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. And use our promo code 49ersaccess right here on screen. 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Like, share, subscribe. You can become a channel member. We can have some fun as we enter into, again, the final month of draft season. But as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy mock draft version 2.0. And stay faithful.